Blessings and welcome to another episode of Heart on Radio. I'm Shauna Ava and I'm thrilled to be here with Ashley Brothers, and we are going to be discussing a hot topic here, okay? We're talking shamanism and its place in the modern day world and how it can be applied to life as it is now. So Ashley does so many things and I was like, your resume is pretty full. Your story is unbelievable, and Ashley sent me a video about, if I could bring this up.
Go for it.
Okay, and it was some sort of a brave project, it seemed to be titled, and it was essentially her story, which I encourage everyone to check that out because it's unbelievable what this woman has gone through and overcome and then used to really lighten her path and changing the world and serving people. It's just incredible. So grab some tissues, check that out, and you'll be even more just blown away by your service. I don't know, I am. So that being said,
thank you.
If you could perhaps do a few minutes background, because I know this is a long journey that has brought you into the work that you do now. So let's hear a little bit about how this all started for you and what sort of moved you into the spiritual path and what you're doing now.
Okay. Hello everybody, I'm Ashley Brothers. It's a pleasure to meet you. Shauna was what she was talking about was called This Is My Brave, and it was in Sedona 2017, May 2017. You can find that on YouTube. But until then, I've been seeing, hearing spirits all my life, ever since I was a child. Basically, hanging on the edge of my crib, I would see what I would call the gray people walking around my room. And I couldn't understand them, I could just see them. And as I grew older, I would be in bed and I would have faces looming over me in the dark. I would see eyes, things would touch me. I would have premonitions of death or accidents, which would often get me up out of bed and tell me that I would have to go with my mother, who was a diabetic at the time, to prevent her from going into the oncoming lane while driving, or to find things that were lost.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Just a quick question, did these ghosts or creatures or things that you were seeing, do they feel benevolent, maleficent?
Malevolent.
Malevolent, thank you. That's what I thought it was. And then I started thinking of Maleficent with Angelina Jolie. Okay, what kind of a energy signature did it carry?
Well, actually the ones that came to me first were more of the, I would call them a denser, darker, for lack of a better word, more negative energy. They were not transcended beings. They were not there to help me.
Oh, wow.
They were not protective of it in
Oh my
any
gosh,
way.
you're this little baby thing seeing all this stuff. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing is, they didn't come at will. They came spontaneously. They came at random. And so it was often such an unpleasant thing because I couldn't call upon them, nor could I protect myself. And the premonitions always led to something bad. So if I didn't do something, I was always worried that something bad was going to happen. One actually woke me up at 3 a.m. Because my dad had accidentally, when he was changing cars out, he left a car on in the garage, and it was right underneath my mother's bedroom. Oh. And I couldn't hear it from my bedroom. I just was told to get up and go to the garage. And by the time I got there, the whole house smelled like exhaust fumes. So I ran upstairs and got my mom and took her outside, but she was really groggy. Turned the car off and everything like that. But so it initially started off like that, just random things, premonitions. As the years went on, I was very empathic, so I felt other people's emotions, sometimes heard their thoughts, but again, I couldn't turn them off. And so instead of it being a gift, it was a curse to me, because I couldn't tell the difference between my emotions and somebody else's.
Because I'm assuming you didn't have the understanding at the point to call it empathy. You're just like, what is all? You're just feeling things and unable to equate it to it being another person's. Is that fair to say?
Right.
Okay.
And I grew up in a home with childhood abuse, and so the things I was picking up were often anger or deep grief or just negative thoughts. And so whatever was in my house was basically generating that same type of field and attracting those same types of energies. Right. Because of my history of abuse and whatever, I became very depressed and very anxious. I had a very dysfunctional marriage, which you will see on the video. It describes more of that. And I shut down. All my gifts, skills just went completely into hibernation, and I became this person who hid in the back of a closet. I was so locked down, so numb, or it was either numb or a raw wound, that I couldn't function.
Oh my gosh. And
it took it into a car accident for me to seek help. And because I had heard voices in my lifetime, the doctors were prescribing different medications for somebody with bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or whatever, because they didn't believe a normal individual would be able to hear voices or to see things that other people couldn't in ordinary reality. And one day I just decided this wasn't enough, and I went to get a tarot card reading, and the woman asked me if I knew I could speak to the dead. And she is the one that led me to my first teacher, who was a half Irish and half Apache. And she was the one that started me on the journey of indigenous healing techniques, which a lot of people consider shamanism, even though that term is derived specifically from the Siberian culture of the Tungus nomads. That's what we Westerners call people who are able to communicate and often embody spirits.
Okay. And that right there is a great, I was going to ask you, what is a shaman? Which right. is, yeah.
A shaman basically, okay, again, that term derives from the Tungus nomads in Siberia. Right. And each culture has a version of this type of individual. Latin America has curanderos.
Yes,
every culture has their own term or their own word, but in Western society we often label any person with power or gifts or healing abilities to be a shaman, and that's just completely incorrect. Okay. The qualities of a shamanic practitioner, for lack of a better term, even though it's frowned upon to even say that, is that this individual recognizes that everything has consciousness. A rock, a tree, a flower, a human, everything has consciousness that we can communicate with. And we can often merge with those other things. And a shaman is also a person who is able to access alternate states of consciousness and go into alternate realities, different worlds, different, whether they be horizontal levels or parallel realities, to access power, information, or healing, even protection. And these individuals, they don't just choose it like, hey, I'm gonna be this type of individual. It's usually the spirits choose them. And also that term shaman, you don't call yourself shaman like, hey, I'm Shaman Ashley. It's an honorary title.
Yeah.
That is bestowed upon you by your community. And if you are of service to your community, that's one thing. But just to be dabbling in your bedroom is something else.
Yeah.
These individuals work with spirits. So not only do they have them around them, but they often will merge with them, embody them, whether that is an ancestor that is deceased that was also a practitioner of this type of healing.
Wow.
Or a spirit teacher that has decided to work with you to bring healing to this reality form. And so shamans or shamanic practitioners learn how to communicate with the universe. They learn to communicate with all that is and to interact with it, to merge with it, to work with it and be in right relationship with it, instead of trying to manipulate steer something or force your will.
Right.
It's a relationship. And a shamanic practitioner is a person who, if somebody comes to them, they can look deep inside them, past their body, and look into their energetic field, their consciousness, and see different levels of health or illness. Because even illness has a consciousness and an intention and that you can speak to. You don't have to say it out loud. You can literally have an internal dialogue with a body part and ask it why it's ailing. You can talk to the consciousness that beats another person's heart and see what it is that that person came here to do. You can access the wounded child aspect. There's so many different things you can do, but that's what a shamanic practitioner does. They access these altered state of consciousness to bring information, power, healing, or protection for an individual.
Yeah, beautifully said. And that's why, and that's why I was curious. There's so many I feel like shaman. It's so hip right now. It's so hot, and there's shaman training and blah blah blah. But I did feel that it was. Just intuiting. You feel like, isn't that something that's sort of bestowed upon you, that either is in your lineage or it's a high place of honor. So how does that work? Can someone want to be a shaman? And
I guess it depends. Everybody's going to have an opinion,
right?
Everybody's going to say yes or no or what have you, and they may even go to the point of shaming an individual who has a certain belief system. So whatever it is, God bless everybody for their beliefs.
Yeah.
For me, I know a lot of people, they don't choose it right off the bat. They usually are initiated through death, trauma, mental illness, or some are born awake.
Okay. When you say death, do you mean like a near-death experience, or?
Either near-death experience, or they died and were brought back to life.
Okay.
People who had had a heart attack or something, or and they got shocked, the paddles, type of thing.
Yeah.
So there are those that have a near-death experience or an actual death experience in return.
Wow. And then perhaps the desire to become a shaman is there, or they're sort of led there?
Well, in the indigenous cultures, there are people that are, people are kind of looked after, and they see if somebody has certain particular signs or symptoms or attributes or what have you. So they are raised to be supported by the community. That's not the case with Western cultures. Mm-hmm. So in these indigenous cultures, these people, that it could be passed down through the lineage. The parent was a practitioner of these healing techniques, or that somebody, that spontaneously comes upon them, the spirits come to them. Mm-hmm. And there are elders in those tribes that teach them, and they go through rites and initiations that prepare them to be of service to the community and take over that role. And they are then supported by the community, food, shelter, clothes, what they need. So there's that energetic exchange.
Right, okay.
They take care of this individual, and that individual takes care of them.
Yeah.
But in Western societies, we don't have that type of community. We are not...
I'm starting to laugh, but I'm thinking even, borrowing a cup of sugar from your neighbor. We don't even do that anymore. That used to be the same.
Right. In indigenous cultures, it's about sharing, it's about compassion, it's about being inclusive. In Western society, we're often exclusive, defensive, separate.
Yes.
And there's often power struggles or energy dominance. Righteousness, where in order for you to be right, somebody else has to be wrong. Mm-hmm. So we're not brought up in this culture where we take care of each other for generations after generations. Yeah. We don't have multiple people in the same house. We don't have tight-knit villages where we take care of each other.
Yeah.
And so we don't have those rites and initiations unless you're part of a particular religion where you are brought up with those edicts or what have you, whatever you want to call it. We are not raised to learn how to speak to a tree. that is something that we consider childish behavior, flight of fancy.
Or, you know, get your head checked kind of behavior.
If you see things or hear things that are out of the ordinary, you're mentally ill.
Right.
You're put away. Or on the other end, you have people who have certain gifts and skills, and they claim something that, well, I'm a shaman because I hear voices. I'm like, well, are you functional? Are you of service to somebody? So just because you hear voices or see things doesn't necessarily make you a shaman. But anyway, so to answer your question of whether or not, you know, like, can somebody choose, there are people that they seek a teacher because they don't know what else to do. They either suffer from their experiences and have no idea how to call upon them, so they are basically at the mercy of the ethers, or you get somebody to train you to figure out how to hone your gifts and use them not only for your own personal healing and information and growth and evolution, but also to be of assistance to others. And so there's this war of people saying we're appropriating the traditions of other people, and that's true. We have done that. But traditionally, white American folk, or even just Americans in general, we come from everywhere, and so we don't have our own culture, our own whatever, and so we do take and pick and do whatever to find information because we don't know what else to do. And so, instead of suffering from these symptoms or whatever, we often seek teachers that will train us if we're lucky. And not all teachers are equal. Not all teachers are shamans. And, well, technically, again, it's a Siberian term, but not all are that type of practitioner.
Right.
So people often call themselves things erroneously. They don't know what else to do.
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I mean, you did and you didn't. Where we are today, you described really the state of the union. Where we are today as a culture and society. What terms do we use? We don't know what to call it. And there has to be some type of a facelift or a change to this traditional practice when we're no longer living in that time frame where it was initially born. We don't live in small villages. We live in big cities. We live in suburbs, right? So we have technology. We have very different lifestyle than what was going on then. So it is. That's why we're here talking about it. It's such an interesting thing to me. But I do want to touch on. I know part of the shamanic work is the shamanic journey, and there are some. It's like Burning Man, let's like go peyote and like ayahuasca, and I poke fun at it because I just poke fun at everything. But I've had friends where it's dangerous. They have partaken. They thought they were with a shaman, or they were over in South America somewhere, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm doing a thing, and they take these mind-altering psychedelics and have not so great experiences, or they thought it was a great experience, but they come back and really something energetically is really off and different, right? So I would love to touch on that, have your opinion on that, because I also learned that a lot of shamans don't actually use the drug. They use more of a drumming, and so let's talk about that. Let's just kick it open.
Okay. Well, ayahuasca is specific to South America.
Have you done it?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not done peyote. I have not done ayahuasca. I have not done, and again, there are some people who say, "Oh, well, then you can't be so and so if you haven't done all that."
What?
No, it's okay.
I did, right?
But no, I have not. I have not done those plant medicines yet, and it's up to the universe whether or not I do partake. But it has not. It has not been my walk thus far. I've had lots of different teachers from across the globe, some in South America, some in North America, some from Europe. And what is core to all shamanic traditions is a monotonous beat, whether you're using drums or rattles. Some will sing, some will use ecstatic dance, some will do walking It's whatever it is that takes your mind to those theta waves and that type of thing. You're changing your brain wave frequency by this monotonous beat or these types of practices in order to enter these altered states of consciousness at will. Because you want the practitioner to be a master of both realities. And unless they're able to take this plant medicine and be able to snap in and out, they're going to have a difficult time. And these people who do take these plant medicines, it's the ones that actually are the true practitioners of these medicines. They are the ones that have been doing it over and over and over and over again. They've been taught by a master. It's been passed down to them. They've had the rites, the initiations. And these plants are not plants. They are a spirit in and of themselves. So they have learned that ayahuasca is a female or a feminine spirit. And they have learned to build a relationship with ayahuasca. Unlike us Westerners who go down for a drug trip or to think that they're finding themselves. They haven't built that relationship with these plants. And that's often why they have such a difficult time.
Interesting.
But as far as the shamanic journey goes, in my training with all my teachers, you basically using a drum or a rattle, a monotonous beat.
Do you still practice with that? What do you, like when you journey, are you listening to something or drumming?
I have actually learned to do it without.
Okay.
I just go in and out. I've been doing it for 14 years, and so for whatever reason, I go in and out. And in fact, I used to not like the drum or the rattle because I thought it was a distraction.
Really?
Yeah, so I had to teach myself how to go into those altered states with noise, and it drove me nuts. But when you're going into the journey, the practitioner is looking to go to 3 different worlds. This world, the middle world, is the only world that has form. And in the middle world, you're going to have, the plants, animals, rocks, people. But you're also going to have those things that have no form. And that can be deceased relatives that have not transcended. You can have other spirits that are of alternate realities. The thing with the middle world is that this is, unlike the upper and lower world, it's the only place that there's suffering. And so traditionally, in a lot of religions, they say hell is down, but it's actually not, it's here. If there's going to be a hell, it's going to be where there's suffering. In the middle world, too, if somebody's in a coma, the person hasn't died, but their consciousness is not in their body. You can kind of smack them around and have no response. And that's because the majority of their essence is some sort of interworld reality between here and a transcended one. So it's kind of still hanging out in their field, it's still here in the middle world, but it's no longer embodied inside them. You will also have amoral spirits, not immoral bad, but amorals. They don't care how they're used here. Those would be the elements: earth, air, water, fire. Okay. And I don't mean earth as in Mother Earth, I mean earth as in dirt or stone, that type of thing. Okay. And so the spirits that you meet here might not necessarily be helpers. They might have their own agenda. You might have ethnocentric spirits that will help you because they think that they either like you or they think that you will help somebody of their lineage, but they might not necessarily like somebody else. So you have to kind of be careful about what you're dabbling with in this realm. But there's also some interworld spirits too here, what you would consider like fairies, elves, gnomes, that type of thing. Okay. They don't have physical form, but they do have consciousness. They do have a certain reality that you can access with your inner eye. Okay.
Your inner eye, that's different than the third eye?
Third eye, same thing.
Okay.
It's like you're not using your two...
Your open, naked eye.
Naked eyes.
Your eyes are clothed. And
That's okay. It's all good. In the upper world, you will meet deities. You will meet angels, your spirit allies, some people call spirit guides, but a person that wants to master this type of work will look for a spirit teacher. And a spirit teacher will go beyond yes or no or what's personal to you, but they actually can teach you how to bring healing to other people.
Yeah.
They'll take you beyond what a spirit guide can do.
That sounds like what you were dealing with more once you tapped into that, yeah.
Yes.
Because you were learning direct approaches on how to heal yourself.
Yes.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and so so in the upper world we have the angels, we have your deities, Jesus, Mary, the ascended masters, basically.
Where do higher selves sort of come in the mix?
Aha. It's in here.
Are there multiple ones, or
there are multiple facets or aspects, but from my training, the higher self isn't necessarily above you. It's inside you.
Yeah.
We are a multi-layered, 5-dimensional being, and we often look up there as if it's like when we die we'll find ourselves, or whatever, or we have to ask for help from up there. But no, the consciousness that beats your heart.
Yeah.
When you cut your hand, it heals you. It has the largest electromagnetic field in your entire body. It has a brain of 44,000 cells. So this thing generates so much power and so much information, and that consciousness is your higher self. But we often are spending so much time trying to get away from ourselves to avoid pain that we don't go inside. We think that inner voice that we hear that's so negative is our heart, and it's not. The mind and the heart are two different things.
Yes.
But in terms of the upper world, so you have those transcended beings, and you might have crystal cities. You might have
crystal cities.
Yes, crystal cities.
Tell me more about that, because I'm so attracted to the Wizard of Oz. Sit by the sun, get the right, that Emerald City. I'm just like, that's how I imagine my 5D. When I sort of 5D travel, I'm always like the bridges and the waterfalls in crystal cities. So.
Yeah. Well, there's crystals. Some people see crystal cities. Some people see cities of clouds. Some people see a vast darkness. And the thing is that every world has multiple layers, not only horizontally but vertically. And the destiny of human souls is up there. And so that's one of the things when you're helping somebody to pass away, you can guide them by the hand, the practitioner can, and take them into that other reality and lift them up. And take them to one of the levels of the destiny of human souls so that they can transcend and process with their ancestors and their spirit guides or their guardian angels.
Okay.
In the opposite, or going down, the lower world is all about nature. So there you have power animals, which in indigenous cultures they believe that you're born with at least 2. And that you can call upon these animals at any time to either, again, retrieve things for you, help you find things, track things, get information, bring you power or healing when you're feeling low, or even extract things, take things away from you that are not for your highest good. But down there you'll find caves and deserts and seas and plant spirits, which actually are often dimorphic. Dimorphic means they have 2 forms. So a plant spirit that would exist in this reality, like rosemary, let's say, down in the lower world would have not only the form of rosemary itself, but also the insect that eats it. And so you can call upon its dual forms to bring healing to somebody.
Yeah. This is fantastic, because essentially this is part of a shaman's journey work, is you're traveling all into these fun, exciting areas in the name and with the okay of your client, essentially, right? And you're visiting their version of this world.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, I was done.
So when a person comes to me, I ask 3 questions, and from those 3 questions, I go into my altered state of consciousness, and I'm looking to see if there are any past or present life wounds or any ancestral wounds that were put upon them as a result of unresolved issues. So if mom and dad had some sort of problem and they couldn't find their happiness, they often put their limiting beliefs or even abusive behaviors onto their child. And that person ends up embodying that, and if it's not resolved within them, they perpetrate it onto somebody else.
And it can also be genetically passed down, right?
Yes, but it doesn't have to be, but yes, it can be.
Okay.
So looking for any past or present life wounds, I'm looking for any intrusive energies, anything that's been directed at somebody or that somebody cast upon themselves.
What does that look like to you when you're,
In my mind's eye, I might see shadow around somebody. I might see a form with consciousness that I can determine if it's male or female. And that can be a being that has a suffering being that has passed on. Usually people call them entities, but they're basically all suffering beings, no matter how horribly they may present themselves. They just have bad attitudes.
You got a bad attitude.
Right. And they often want a healing. And so sometimes these things that are attached to somebody, you can offer them a healing. But
that's beautiful.
So I'll look to see if there's cords between that person and somebody else somewhere in their field. I'll look to see if there is a localized intrusion, meaning there's like things in the spiritual reality show up as metaphor. So it might look like a knife is stuck in somewhere, even though they never had a knife there. But it's just to give you an interpretation of the intention or what kind of energy is. You might see an arrow in the heart, which means, they had an emotional wound.
Right.
You may see hooks, cords.
What do the cords look like? Are they?
To me, they can be chains or ropes.
Okay.
I've seen shackles on people.
That's a surefire. Let's get that off.
Right. So I usually see things that give me an indication that this is not of the highest good for the individual, and they may be interfering with this person's life, either mentally, emotionally, or physically.
Yeah.
And then I'm also looking to see if there's any what I call contracts. And I don't mean like your Akashic records, because if you have a great Akashic record, woohoo! I'm looking to see if somebody has a limiting belief or if something's been placed on them, like a curse. And oftentimes people have done it to themselves, to protect themselves.
Wow.
They make a declaration after a moment of trauma where they say, I will never do this again. And I did that, and it had dire consequences. And you have to get that, sometimes you have to get the person to acknowledge that they're they either have a limiting belief that's holding them back, and help them process how they can change that belief so they have a more functional life. Or you look to see, for me, if somebody else is influencing them. Oftentimes I'll see somebody sitting in a chamber with a desk and a book, and I'll see maybe even a stack of books next to it that they're reading from.
Wow.
And it has their parents' names on them, or somebody else's names.
Wow.
Or somebody else will be standing in that chamber with them, and they'll be holding their book down or have a knife through it. And so you'll see that there are these things that in their chamber of contracts, they have to renegotiate or bring resolution to either these beliefs or these relationships that are holding them back.
Wow.
The next thing I'm looking for in these altered states is it any, so those are things that need to be removed from this person's energetic field, or transmuted or transformed in some way. Usually bringing light to them, or calling in my spirit guides spirit allies to help, or through my own, passing of power. I also look for any energies that are willing to be restored to this person at this time. Are they ready for it? And again, they show up in metaphorical form. It's like a sword could be protection. A crown could be empowerment. Some people, they get water for purity or replenishment. Or some other type of symbol. And I usually get information about the symbol and what it means and what it's restoring to this person's field. And you're basically doing downloads to this person's energetic field like you would be updating your computer.
Okay.
So you're taking the old fragmented data off the computer, because that's what we are as consciousness.
Yeah.
An electromagnetic consciousness.
Yes.
And so you're wiping the hard drive of some of these other things that don't need to be there if they let you. And then you're putting in your apps.
New apps.
Yeah, you're updating the apps.
Yes. So is that where the healing takes place then, while you're journeying on their behalf and you're cleaning and transmuting, or?
Yes and no. So right before I get to that, just one little nugget. One nugget. Sorry,
I want a nugget.
Another thing that's being restored is soul parts, or that's the term people use, but it's part of your own consciousness, and it often has a type of personality. So it could be a childlike aspect that left as a result of abuse, trauma, or neglect. And you're not bringing the abuse back, you're bringing the essence that left as a result of that. And it just shows itself as a child to give you an impression that you're returning innocence or sweetness, or a type of thing that they may have, a gift, a skill that they had lost. For some people it might be an artist piece, or a musician, a martial artist part. Whatever wants to come forward to help them through the next stages of their life. And then lastly, a power animal. So you're going in and you're asking the spirits to gift this individual with a protector. Somebody will help them on their journey that they can call upon in time of need. And to answer your question, in the middle world you can do long distance healing, and so you can do healing in the midst of a journey session if the person is not local. You can also do it via Skype, because time and distance, that's an illusion. But basically what I'm discussing right now is a diagnostic journey.
Okay.
So before the person ever comes to me, before I even talk to them on Skype, I want to know what I'm looking for. And like a doctor who's looking at x-rays, or they're looking at this type of test or this type of test, I want to know what psychic surgery or whatever you want to say needs to be done. Okay,
so that's what the journeying is about. And then, I'm assuming, you're journeying, and then are you taking notes as things come in? Talk about really though being in two places at once, mastering those two different worlds, because how do you keep down all that information you're gathering? Because I know you journey for several hours. I do. Right?
Well, everybody's different. Some people, there's different beliefs that they believe you don't need an extended journey. You just pop in and you see what the person needs, and you just go to work right then and there. Okay. I think for me, as a person who used to be extremely shy, I like to be very thorough. And so I like the person to call me or let me journey at least 48 hours beforehand, but I do about 8 hours of journeying. And I write down everything I see, hear, feel, and experience in a report that I give the person. And again, there's two schools of thought. Too much information can scare somebody or make them, you don't want to re-traumatize anybody, so you have to be very careful about what you share and how you share it. And also, you better be darn sure you're accurate. And so oftentimes, if I don't know what's coming through, if it's a past life, present life, or a metaphor, I explain that to the person. I just kind of give them a warning. This is what I see. Right. And you can take it or leave it. Right. And sometimes it's direct messages from their own soul that sometimes tells on them. Like they don't want to tell me something, and it just kind of like, boop. And then other times it might be something they didn't even think of. Yeah. Sometimes it's their spirit guide telling something, or it's mine. And so I'm writing down all these different messages, all these images, all these impressions or feelings that I have. Because sometimes, some journeys, they have no words. Some that have no pictures, they're just impressions of sensations on the body. And that's the thing, is a lot of people are journeying, but they don't even know it, because they're getting a lot of information coming through. They just don't know what state of perception that they're receiving that information from.
Thank you for saying that, because I feel like that's sort of where I'm at. I feel things and I'm like, dang, I wish I had a point of reference, because I know I'm feeling things, but I just don't know where to put all that. But that's why I want to dive into sort of how we can apply this in the modern world. How and can we do this for ourselves? I know you mentioned 3 questions that you always ask. What are these questions we should be asking ourselves? How can we apply this to our own lives, our own healing needs?
Well, I believe, okay, so the one thing that our culture has taught us not to do is to talk to the universe, talk to ourselves. That's taboo.
I know, right?
And so we have teachers that teach us how to learn French. What about the forgotten language of the universe? And so a journey workshop, whether you do it through somebody who's local or the Foundation for Shamanic Studies is where I learned. Sandra Ingerman is a phenomenal teacher. Hank Wesselman, some of these others.
Is that in San Francisco? No.
Well, they have, if you look up the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, they actually have places all over the United States and different parts of the world.
Perfect.
So a basic journey workshop will teach you how to talk to your spirit guides, find your power animals, how to find a power symbol for yourself or somebody else, how to find a power animal for yourself or somebody else, and basically learn to communicate through the different worlds, upper, middle, and lower.
Yeah.
And so I think that is the basic training. The foundation of all shamanism is the journey, is to be in those altered states. And I think that the greatest gift somebody can give to themselves is to be able to learn to understand what's coming through. Because we're getting information from all over the place and we're so confused that our body goes into fight or flight because we don't know how to process this information or how to categorize it. Is it ours or somebody else's? Am I an empath? Am I suffering? Or, is it some other thing inside ourselves that we need to face? So basically, to answer your question, people can learn these techniques and it would be a great way to learn how to build a relationship with all that is and have actually deeper relationships, not only with other people but with ourselves, because we often are the first to dog on ourselves, and our body hears us. Our conscious, all those parts hear us when we say that we're not pretty, or we say that we're fat or ugly or unworthy. Something inside us hears that.
Yes.
And it responds.
It starts to respond, right?
And so when we learn to communicate in that way, we are more effective people. We're more effective communicators. So, I forgot the question.
It was sort of a full question, but it was like, why is this relevant to us now, and how can we take advantage of this?
Okay, so it's relevant because we're right now in a society where there are more people lonelier than ever. And that loneliness leads to disconnection and disease. Addiction is, what do we connect to? We connect to something that we put, inside
There's
ourselves.
so many forms of addiction too.
Right, and so whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever.
Or over-exercising.
Everything. And so we have learned to put our energy into something else instead of ourselves. And the thing with the shamanic path is that everything starts at an energetic level. And if it's not resolved there, it works its way down to the mythic, which is the dream world, the mental, emotional, or lastly, the physical. If it's at the physical level, it's at all levels. And you can't resolve it there. You have to go above it. So when we take a chemical pill, it's not or cut something out, it's not healing the mental, emotional, or the energetic aspect of it. And so people say, oh, well, I cut it out, so why did it come back? Because you didn't get the root.
Yeah.
And so the shamanic, the thing with shamanism or these types of indigenous practices, helping somebody identify the root cause of their situation so they're not just treating symptoms. They're going to be dealing with that over and over and over again until they have resolution. So learning these techniques, or even for ourselves or for somebody else to go deeper. Where did this start? Did it start in me? Did it start in my family? How do I heal this? Because you can have a cure, a Western medicine cure, and not heal. And so that,
just having that shamanic perception that everything has consciousness in the universe, and that anything that's happening in the physical is really just the culmination of things going on in the astral in some way. So even that perspective, I think alone is a very powerful tool or place to come from.
Right, and you know, and the thing too is it's feeling the connection again. When we feel disconnected and isolated, even in groups, even surrounded by friends.
Well, sometimes the most lonely moments.
Right, you know, that can lead to depression. When we feel disconnected, we often try to self-soothe ourselves through drugs, alcohol, food, exercise. We do something to plug the hole. And so when we learn to reconnect and to feel ourselves and to be empowered, that changes the game. Indigenous cultures believe that it is the lack of power that leads to mental, emotional, and physical illness. It's not energy, it's power. There's a difference, because energy is energy, but like a certain vibration, but power is energy plus consciousness, and there's a difference. So you want more than energy, you want power, and that's what the shamanic practitioners are looking for. They're looking for that consciousness to put it back together, to help you integrate and be a fully embodied person. Unlike so many people who are believe that ascension means to leave their body.
Right, that it's outside of you somehow.
No, the truly transcended self is the one that is able to be inside the heart, inside the body, fully embodied, not trying to leave or spiritually bypass the human experience by calling it 3D or something else. You better respect this, otherwise this can have some very painful consequences. When you treat this poorly, it reacts. So have some respect.
Yeah,
is
you've
what
got
I say.
some first-hand experience with that.
Yes.
It's funny how we can experience such grave pain. Like we're so powerful that I know I manifested things that I needed surgery. I was ill. And that's how powerful we are, that we can manifest all of this sort of crap in our lives, for lack of a better term. But on the flip side, when we learn that, like, look how powerful we are, that we can equally manifest amazing, wonderful things in our lives.
Yes.
Right? Because I feel so much knowing your story, and again, I encourage people to check that out. It's unreal. The fact that you're even just like here right now. She's here, she's real. But it's, you know, I think that so much of what you were dealing with was like such a manifestation of what was going on in your family, and energetically with you were just like dealing with so many illnesses, and I think that's a lot of people can empathize or are experiencing that right now.
Well, I think too that the thing that's important is like, what is this disease telling me? Because it has consciousness.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I have found that people are more likely to hold on to that disease because it is the devil they know versus the devil they don't. And the devil they don't know is their true self. And so it actually has they have a collateral benefit from being ill. They get people's sympathy, they get people's energy, they get something, they get love that they might not have if they were well.
Right.
Or they might actually have to get up and do something that scares the hell out of them, like start a new life, start a new job, start a new something. And sometimes it's easier to fade away into this unknowingness or this pain than it is to stand up and fight. And sometimes it's about letting go of that fight. But illness has it has its own consciousness, and to be able to ask it, what is it trying to teach you, can unravel so many mysteries. Sometimes we say something to ourselves that when we verbalize it, and since we don't clear it, it actually takes up root in our body and it becomes an illness. And sometimes we've said it so long ago that we don't even remember until that moment comes. You're like, what happened? Did I curse myself? And then you have to say, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to yourself. And then you have to ask yourself, am I done yet? Am I done punishing myself? Am I done suffering?
Yeah.
And for many people, I've heard the answer, no. They say they want to be well, but the thing is they want to have no adversity. They want to have no pain ever again, and that's what a lot of people seek healing for. They want the promise that there will be happily ever after like a Disney movie. The second you tell them that you will get well, but you need to step into your power, then they either decide to, pull out into the next reality, or sometimes they will retreat back into that illness because it is more comfortable to be in physical pain. And some people have such difficult lives that they would rather die. And I've actually had people ask me to take out their soul, and I have refused. Yeah, they came to me for a healing, and when they realized that they had all these gifts and all these potentials that were coming to the surface, they didn't want to do their inner work. They didn't want to step into their power because they were so afraid of what the universe would require of them next, that they would rather die than try.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I know, it sent shivers down my system here. Wow.
So yeah, so basically with these techniques is you're looking to see what is the root of all this, how can I be of service to this person, what needs to be resolved, what are they willing to let go of, what are they willing to bring back into their life, and help them to make these baby steps into this new paradigm for themselves, and so they don't backslide and recreate the same wounding events, circumstances, and relationships over and over.
Do it! Sorry, just I have to shout out to people who are watching. Do it! Oh my gosh, do what scares you. It's so empowering. We are all dealing with we all have some kind of a storyline, right? So I mean, this woman here to be doing what she's doing, do it. Don't come and ask for your soul to be taken out. We need your soul. You're a part of the huge puzzle. So anyway, that's really beautiful. And I wanna touch on this for a second because the word karma is coming up. It has such I'm curious what the shaman view of that, what your perception is on karma, and it's carrying it's such a heaviness to it now. It feels kind of yucky.
Well, karma is a belief system, and it means cause and effect. So if you believe that if somebody will be punished for an action, then you're basically saying, boom, boom, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. You have an action and a reaction from the universe. There are certain shamans that believe that if you carry this belief with you, that you will always be in a karmic situation. Instead of saying this action and this action are independent of each other. So if somebody yells at you and you yell back, it's not, you get to choose whether it's a reaction or it's an independent thing. You know what I mean? So if you believe that you're going to be punished, you're often going to be attracting this stuff. Or if you believe somebody else is should be punished, what are you doing? But you're throwing negativity that way. You're throwing punishment that way. You're wishing that on them. Oh, that person should be punished. Karma, you know what I mean? So I guess it just depends on the person's belief system, what your religion is, and what have you. But where attention goes, energy flows. What you believe in becomes your biology. So I'm not saying that karma is wrong. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. But if it exists for you, then it will exist for you.
Right.
If it doesn't exist for you, it will not exist for you. It's what's in your consciousness.
Okay. Because I didn't know if you had seen in your journeying experience sort of that karmic wheel, or people are coming into this lifetime with a karma that they're there to right.
I do see people with an opportunity to
learn.
Okay, so in the Caro tradition in Peru, they talk about that you're born with two books. You're born with the silver book that I guess you could call it karma. It's what has already been written. It's what's been passed down through your lineage. It's been what's passed down through all of your incarnations. It's something that you are able to edit, but it's already, basically written. Then they say you're born with the gold book of destiny, which is blank, and you have the opportunity to write a new story. So you can either read from the story of your past and in your ancestors, which means you're always doing this, which means as you walk forward, the only thing that you see in your future is your past, because your head is always turned that way. That book becomes your Bible that you read from every day. or you can put that one down and you can turn your head to the future. And yeah.
That's where I'm going.
Right. And you can write, as a creator being, you can create your own reality. And so you can say, I no longer agree with what was. I no longer agree with those beliefs. I no longer agree to be sick. I no longer agree to have my mom or my dad's illnesses. I no longer agree. And you get to have an opportunity now to, again, create your own reality. And so you can, depends. Karma. Which book are you reading from? Okay. Which book are you writing? Yeah. Are you going to scribble forever and say, Mom did this, Mom or Dad did this?
Daddy wasn't there, as Leon and Alexander like to say.
Right. And try to make yourself the hero in the margins of that very fat, already filled up book. Or are you going to take your creativity and put it down on paper? And that's often very scary for people, to be responsible for their own lives.
Do you feel that this incarnation, this experience we're having, what do you think the purpose is?
Wow, that
loaded question, right?
Right.
You know?
No pressure.
No pressure.
I believe that people are waking up to realize how much power they do have, and that they are not just following a script. They're not just following what society tells us to do. You know, Mom, Dad told me this. The teacher said this. The doctor said this. We are learning, or the government said this. We are learning that we are powerful beings, that we're not a slave race, that we are not stupid, that we are not at the mercy of something else. We're actually in cahoots with the universe. We're actually co-creators.
Yes.
And so we're learning to be empowered and to have a relationship more than just giving direction to somebody else or receiving it from somebody else. We learn to be a team with that which has form and without form, which can create change.
Yeah. I love that. I think that resonates with me. That's perfectly. I think it's a game of learning and creativity. So that's why Jesus is my homeboy, because to me that was his message, right? I mean, his message was actually showing us that we can do everything that he does and then some. So it's interesting how things got really misconstrued there. But that's what I felt like he came in to form to show us how powerful we are. And it's so exciting that we can have conversations like this now. And that even though, internet can be a sort of hairy, scary thing, there's also a way that we've been able to connect, and people who are perhaps feeling sort of lonely, and they can find their tribe and connect with people. And I feel I'm curious what is on, in the sessions that you're having, what is on the collective consciousness? I don't know if anything comes to mind that people are repetitively coming in, wanting to know, wanting to heal, etc. And while you think about that, I'm going to get our cards for this episode going.
The majority of the people that come to me have gone through severe abuse, trauma, and neglect. That's not the case with everybody, but for some reason I seem to attract that crowd, possibly because I had undergone that myself. And most people believe there's more to life than that. And they want to overcome suffering instead of, again, just recreating that wheel of attracting the same moody events, circumstances, and relationships. They believe that there's something more, and they want to be more. And so they're seeking guidance of, learning how to communicate with themselves, learning how to communicate with the universe, learning how to be this multifaceted being, so they don't feel disempowered when they're in a situation that they don't have control over. Because that's one of the things that we often feel trapped by a situation or defined by something that happens to us versus allowing ourselves to be independent of that. We are not a product of our experiences. We are something completely individual and separate. And that's what people are looking for. But they do it in a kind of backwards way where they separate from themselves and they have soul loss.
Yes.
So they're trying to separate from the pain and the suffering, but instead of going inside and finding their true gifts and abilities, they're like, run for the hills.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
So they're basically looking for guidance of how to be their stronger, most empowered self and to overcome the suffering no matter how much adversity is going on in the world.
Yes.
Because it doesn't stop. It's there, you know, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to suffer from it. We can like learn to ride the waves and navigate it. So.
That's awesome. I think that's definitely what we're all journeying on is embodying our highest self, stop getting in our own way, stop repeating these cycles. And I don't know, this feels like a really good incarnation to me. Like we picked a really badass timeline, if I can say that.
Well, and love even deeper, you know, against the rules.
Yeah.
You know, forget the rules, you know, you don't have to earn my love, you don't have to do this X, Y, and Z. I can love you no matter how you show up. Your truth doesn't have to be mine. You know, we can still be both right. We can still both, you know, be powerful people. Somebody doesn't have to be on the bottom. So we're learning how to love more, or some people are learning how to love more deeply and love themselves more deeply. Because that's often the first place that that we abuse is ourselves. We take up the reins that somebody else left behind.
Yeah. Well, so on that note, we've got this card that came up is so cool. First of all, let me make a shout out to Spirit of the Wheel meditation deck, and this is created by Linda. Here, I'll let you stare at that. Get your vibes on it. Linda Iwashina. Oh, I hope I said that right. And illustrations by Jody Bergstrom. So really, really lovely deck here, inspired by our shaman topic today, but I know you'll probably see this backwards on camera. So I'm wondering, maybe you want to read what we pulled here, and if anything comes to mind for you.
Can you see that? It's like a puma or a type of a large cat. It says Big Wind's Moon. It's about leadership, self-discipline, and psychic abilities, which is interesting. In the Peruvian traditions, the West is the jaguar, puma, orongo. And the jaguar represents the luminous warrior. It's about standing our truth and speaking from that place with beauty, courage, integrity, and grace. So again, it's not about righteousness where in order for you to be right, somebody else has to be wrong. But it's about embodying your power. It's about devouring that which is rotten in your life. Instead of letting death stalk you little by little, mentally, emotionally, physically, or draining your energy through these negative thoughts or things that go on, it's about you turning around and stalking death. Turning around and stalking the things that steal your life force and your joy and take you under one little minute at a time.
Wow.
Because death doesn't have to be quick. It can come slowly, it can come day to day and year by year or whatever. But this is about facing that and about being that luminous warrior, about being the jaguar, about being at the top of the food chain, but not in a way that's energy dominance, where you're suppressing somebody else, but allowing yourself to be big and others to be big as well.
Yes.
And it's about pruning the dead leaves and branches from your tree of life so that only that which is good, true, beautiful, and authentic remains. It's just being your fully empowered self. That's what that means.
Wow.
Be bold. Be afraid and do it anyway. Rock it.
Yeah. Yes. Bumper sticker. That's so awesome. I feel like I don't even need to read the card, but I just want to shout that I guess it represents also a certain time here, which is February 19th to March 20th. So it mentions that those born under the big wind's moon are physically connected to the spiritual realm. Their ability to communicate with the unseen forces comes easily due to their highly sensitive natures. Call upon the courage of big wind's moon to see your dreams and visions through the end. Spirit is asking you to share the bounty of your life, channel your creative inspiration, and learn to flow with the spiritual energies around you. Take your place of power. So that is super rad, and I think very applicable to what we're chatting about here. I encourage everyone to go online and check out Ashley's stuff, and if you are desiring, seriously, I'm sorry, I know she won't like it, but I'm just gonna do it. Let's see, what is the best way for people to contact you if they want a session, and what is coming up next for you? Because I know you're leaving Sedona, you're being called to a new area.
I am leaving Sedona. I'm going back to Bend, Oregon, where my family and some of my friends are. I believe I learned what I need to learn in Sedona, and I'm bringing my medicine back there.
Y'all are lucky. Okay.
But I do work with people long distance in basically all over the world, throughout the United States, Europe, Asia, wherever, through Skype, if that's what you calls to. But you can check out my website. It's bonesoftheearth.org. My actual the name of my business is the Institute of Indigenous Alchemy, because I teach as well as I offer individual healing sessions in both energy medicine as well as the indigenous healing techniques. So you can check out the website and see if anything resonates with you. It might not, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Or you can email me. It's alivingprayer1978@gmail.com. My phone number's on the website, that type of thing, and so just check it out.
She's unbelievable. Everyone who's had a session with her can't stop talking about it and has such a profound experience. So I know you're gonna blend, and it's not, it's spirit working through you, and you've just been a wonderful facilitator of that. So Ashley, thank you again so much for being here and spending your time with us, and thank you guys
Isn't
all.
she wonderful?
Yeah, we're gonna need some time now. A little love fest going on here, but truly thank you all so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and thank you for watching Hard on Radio.
Yes, thank you. Blessings to you.
Blessings.